Hey, what's up everyone? My name is Mark and this is Mark's Coding Project. This is video 21 of our Connect 4 in Java series, and today we're going to be setting up our opponent response for game requests. So in the last video we asked our client if they wanted to carry on a saved game that they had with their opponent. The first steps to that were we edited our write connection method and we edited our save connection method. So we put in a couple of bits to incorporate this text file into our connection building process. The next step was to get that input from the client. So we needed to actually ask the client, look, do you want to carry on this saved game that you've got? And we built that in the last tutorial. And then in this tutorial, we're going to be gauging a response from the user, from the opponent, sorry. So if I just scroll down to the bottom, I'm going to try a new viewing thing where I'm going to remove all of the code above it so that the only thing that we're looking at is the current code that I'm working on. Let me know if you think that's going to be useful or not. I'm just trying something. Okay. So in order to get the input from our opponent, I think the best way of doing that is by creating a new method. The new method will likely be executed in the same location as our input from our client. So output to client and input from client. So it's going to be executed somewhere around here based off of this answer. So depending on what the initial client responds with, do they want to carry on their game? That will help us to determine whether or not we ask our opponent. So this method is going to need to be executed within our save connection. In that case, we need to make it a static method since save connection is static. And I think we should return a Boolean. The reason for that is because if we send a request to start a new game with our opponent can respond with yes or no. Yes or no is a Boolean value, true or false. So I think we should return a Boolean value so that we can then branch based off of our return data. I'm going to call it opponent response. That's just what we're going to call our method. So how are we going to do this? We're quite fortunate in that we already have our input and output methods to our client here and here. So what I think we're going to do is I think we're just going to execute those methods. So I want to output to the client. I want to use a socket, which I don't have at the moment, so I think it's probably worth putting that into parameter. Socket, which I've spelt wrong. S, and actually come to think of it, we should probably just match the parameter list of output client to our opponent response. That way it just makes things a little bit easier. Okay. So we'll pass the socket and we will pass data. So if you'll remember this method, all it's going to do is it's going to send some string value to our client. However, in this instance, it's going to be sending that value to our client's opponent. So that's the distinction. I believe that we're going to need to make a Boolean. We'll call it connect opponent. So at the moment, it's going to be false. So all this is going to do is it's going to say, okay, if you it's going to say if your opponent wants to connect, then this value will be true, and if not, it will be false. So we are going to return connect opponent, and that way we just get rid of that error down the bottom. You are upset because it's always false, but we're going to change that, don't worry. So we then need to make a string value, because if you'll remember, our input method returns a string, so we're going to need to save that to a different variable. So I'm going to call it input from client. I'm going to pass it a socket. I don't know if I included this in the last tutorial. Let me see. No, I didn't. Okay, so there's a slight problem with our input method, in that we need to surround it in a while loop. And the reason for that is because if the client application hasn't sent any data at the point that this method is executed, the method will just be skipped. So in order to stop that from happening, we're going to need to rejig this a little bit. So we're going to remove the declaration. We're going to move it up to the top. So we're going to make our answer variable up here. And we're going to give it a default space value. There we go. So while our answer dot equals space, we want to keep on trying to execute this method. And the reason for that is because if the answer variable equals space, this method hasn't been executed, or at least we haven't received any data yet. However, once we do receive data, answer will be changed, either yes or no, and then the loop will terminate. I have realized that we don't actually need the Boolean, and I will explain why in a second. So the last thing that we need to do once we've got this input is we need an if statement. So if answer dot equals yes, what we can do is we can just say return true. So we'll get rid of that. And then if there's else, we'll return false. Okay, so you guys get it. So if the opponent says yes, answer will be set to yes, and if it's equal to yes, then we will set the Boolean value to true, and go ahead and connect the opponents. If not, don't connect them. What's wrong with this if statement? If statement could be simplified. Oh yeah. Okay, so some of you may be wondering why that is allowed to be simplified. I found this out yesterday, and I've just completely forgotten it since. I'm probably going to do that a couple more times before I remember. But basically, if this equals true, we can return true, and if it equals false, it will return false. And it basically does what the code below was doing, just in one line, which is nice. So answer.equals returns a Boolean value as is, so we can just set it as the value that we're returning. So this represents a Boolean value, and is it gonna, will it show up if I, so answer.equals returns a Boolean value. This has a return type of Boolean, therefore they match. This matches with this, and we can just set that as a return value. Okay, so leading on from that, the first thing that we need to do so we need to put a while loop around our client value, this answer value here, because for the same reasons as I just mentioned in our connect opponent. So we're going to make this value here, do that. Cool. Then gonna get rid of this string, and then we're gonna put it in a while loop, if I can spell while. Oh yeah, that was something else I wanted to do. Cool. Nice. Okay, that's that solved. I just want to flick back here as well and set this equal to ignore case. just in the event that the user types in a lowercase y, we don't really want to penalize them for that. So we're going to ignore capitalization. And then last but not least, we want to use our connect opponent method. Our connect opponent method only matters when the client says they want to connect to our opponent. So it's only going to be executed within this if statement's body. Okay. So we want to make a Boolean value. We'll call it C opponent. So short for connect opponent. We will set it equal to connect opponent. Opponent response. Nice. Okay. So we need to give it our parameters, which is our socket, and the data, which we'll just type something out for now. You have a new game request. Would you like to accept? Question mark. This will become more fancy, so we'll put in like a username or something. But in order to do that, we need to create a username table, and that I haven't got around to doing yet. So it's a slow process. It will build up. At the moment, it's a little bit flimsy, but it'll get better. It's just a nice little. It's good for testing purposes at the moment. So we need to make sure that this actually works. I think the best way of doing this is just by surrounding this in another if statement. I'm not sure that I'm using these if statements the most efficient way I can, but you know. So if C opponent, then we're going to update the connection. That'll be the client connection, I want to say, and it will be our opponent's connection. So that should all work. That's all I've got for you, to be honest. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else we need to add. I don't think there is. So I hope you've enjoyed the video. Please do like, comment, and subscribe. All of this code is available on GitHub, which I will leave a link to in the description. And I hope to see you guys back here for the next video.